Hello, I'm Upham, and this is Tapping into the Flow, Proprioceptive Interaction with Rap and Rhythm Hive, a project with my Ritmo colleague, Kjell Andreas Oddekalv. I'm a music scientist with an interest in how listeners build their experience of music in real time, and Kjell Andreas is a rapper turned researcher finishing his PhD on rhythmic techniques and rap flows. And together we found Rhythm Hive to be a fascinating example of musical gameplay with opportunities for learning. Rhythm games like Guitar Hero have been studied for their potential to help players learn generalizable musical skills, like sight reading or guitar playing, and the outcomes have been very modest. But what about the impacts of gameplay on how players understand the specific songs they're playing with? Game developer Matt Bach coined the term interactive proprioception to describe the way a rhythm game choreography can influence what a player hears and appreciates in the music. They say, "In feeling out with your body a given rhythm, I think it pushes your auditory system to find the same pattern and figure out where that is. You notice that there's a bass synth doing that rhythm. You understand that rhythm better. You hear that particular part of the song because that's the part of the song that the choreographer is hearing when they're making moves for it. So that very tight linkage between the song and the choreography for it explicates a fair amount of musical information to the player. I think that the interaction really comes in what is revealed to you and what is highlighted for you through specific rhythmic motion that then unpacks the song a bit." So what musical information might players gain access to through playing Rhythm Hive? The game's mobile touch interface takes full advantage of our fingers' dexterity, supporting rhythmic patterns close to the action of many tracks. But as the game is designed to share the music of K-pop groups BTS and Hyphen and TXT, most of the choreographies are focused on vocals, sung and rapped. Now, singing along to our favorite songs is typical fan behavior, whether or not we really know the words, but rapping along can be quite difficult if you haven't built the skills, and it's extremely hard if you don't speak the language, as is the case for many BTS fans today. Through a game like Rhythm Hive, disadvantaged listeners can gain an embodied, intimate familiarity with these expert rap flows through their fingers. Now, before we get into the specifics, we should explain some terminology about rap. Flow refers to the rhythmic structure of a rap, the timing of patterns of words and rhymes. Delivery refers more to performance parameters like pitch, breath, stylistic articulation. And content refers to the lyrics and all that they contain. So rhythmic structure, or flow, is created by the placement of rapped syllables, the stress patterns of said syllables, and the rhymes and phrase boundaries within a musical rhythmic context, aka the beat. And another important caveat. This project focuses on the rhythmic elements over content because of our expertise. While each of us are musicians with our own skills, we're not Korean speakers. As such, there may be many additional connections between the lyrics of these excerpts and the Rhythm Hive choreographies that we have overlooked. Additionally, we're only sharing a few highlights to illustrate the connections that strike us. These are not complete analyses of these songs or even of these short excerpts. There's plenty more to notice and appreciate, and we'd be happy to hear of other players' insights into the game and its impacts on their experience of the music. So for the first example, we'll talk about how these tapping choreographies can capture flow structure. Suga's verse in 134340 consists mostly of steady 16th note runs with a typical syllabic rate, and variation in how the lines begin and end. Variation, or repetition with a difference, is key to articulating form in rhythmic structures. This initial transcription of flow also includes markings of where special finger holds and slides align with the flow, often marking the ends of phrases with additional emphasis. To introduce the relationship between the rap flow and the finger choreography, here is recorded gameplay from the beginning of Suga's verse, the easy mode tapping sequence positioned above the hard mode. And if you haven't played the game, I suggest focusing on the easy mode sequence before trying to interpret the flow below.
무서울 정도로 똑같은 다른 속에 딱 너만 한데 솔직히 말해 네가 없던 1년쯤 덤덤했지 흔히 말하는 미련도.
This here is the same sequence with the taps flattened out to flow left to right on a metrical grid, with beats marked as vertical lines and bar lines numbered in white. The easy mode taps are in green above the lyrics, hard mode below, and aligned lyric syllables overlaid on yellow. This excerpt contains 5 phrases. And with these outlined, we can see how the easy mode consistently marks the onset of lines and then tends to follow the beats. In contrast, hard mode taps along to every syllable, with slides adding emphasis at the ends of lines. Similar tapping patterns at the end of lines articulate these boundaries for players as well as give them focus. The hard mode never repeats exactly in the first 3 lines, but there is an internal consistency to the placement of repeat taps and the closing swipes that give a shared character to the flow. Repetitions can also serve to highlight internal rhymes in Suga's verses, such as we see at the beginning of lines 3 and 4. And there are many more fleeting similarities like this across these lines and the rest of the piece, but that's too many to describe. The tapping sequence can also give a sense of the effort in performing the flow, like in the 4th line that is twice as long as those preceding it. As Kjell Andreas describes, for a listener, this is experienced as a build-up in tension. The line does not end where it's expected to. For a rapper, this tension is keenly felt and embodied, as the line continues to flow when it starts to run out of air, and this dimension of accumulating strain is physical as well as musical. Here, Rhythm Hive gives a player access to this physical dimension in a direct manner. The run is made more challenging for Rhythm Hive players with the slide that happens midway. This corresponds to where Suga uses an exaggerated high pitch on this single syllable, jik, to make it stand out. The higher pitch requires extra physical effort, even if Suga's delightfully effortless in his rapping, and so does the slide gesture in hard mode. Our explicit descriptions don't match the experience of practicing these tapping sequences manually, but here is the same excerpt again in case they help render them a bit more legible.
무서울 정도로 똑같은 하루 속에 딱 너만 없네 솔직히 말해 네가 없던 1년쯤 더 맺지 흔히 말하는 미련도.
From this excerpt, we've shown that these tapping sequences can articulate and reinforce many important features of rap flows. Segmentation of lines, rhyming patterns, echoing interesting delivery, and imitating the effort of performing longer lines. These finger choreographies direct players' attention to important facets of rap and open their awareness to more nuanced elements, like micro-timing. So now let's dig into the ways these rappers play with time, showing off their skill with subtle shifts to the flow that become palpable through Rhythm Hive gameplay. In music, microtiming refers to small adjustments in the timing of sounds that are usually smaller than what is notated. While these details of delivery are carefully and consciously controlled by the performer, listeners more often experience microtiming manipulations as changes in how the music feels. In We Are Bulletproof Eternal, we have 2 good examples of microtiming, RM playing with swing and Suga drifting from the beat. For each, we'll explain the effects and then play them. RM's verse in We Are Bulletproof Eternal is a lot more rhythmically diverse than the runs in the previous example. But many of the structural cues are the same, with repetition and emphatic gesture demarking line beginnings and ends. The easy mode tap sequence uses direct repetition for the first 2 lines, and then mirrors that same shape spatially in line 3 and chronologically in line 4. The hard mode again follows the flow syllabically, with crossback slides highlighting RM's articulations and many internal rhymes. The microtiming play happens in line 3, where RM begins to swing on the 16th mid-beat. Swing is a common form of microtiming in jazz and funk and other genres, where subdivisions of the beat are made uneven, long, then short. Rap usually sticks to straight, even 16th notes, as RM performs them in line 2. So to introduce swing out of nowhere is very cool and uncommon and super dope, according to Kjell Andreas. In hard mode, RM's choice to swing is followed by the tapping sequence, making this quick play with timing visible and tangible. Comparing the lines of 16th note taps in line 2 and line 3, we see how some taps are delayed, giving a loping or skipping feel to the 3rd line. Here is the excerpt.
내 생각에 아직 꿈속인 건 아닐까 길었던 겨울 끝에 온 게 진짜 봄일까 모두 비웃던 한참 부끄럽던 여름 이건 새로 된 조명 Bulletproof.
Suga's form of microtiming play in We Are Bulletproof is at a different scale. Instead of a quick splash of color, Suga really messes with our sense of musical time. His verse is set over quiet instrumentals that barely articulate the beat. No drums or bass, just pads, guitar effects. So he takes advantage of this and slides way, way back. Like in RM's verse, the finger taps follow Suga's delivery rather than sticking to a quantized grid, which means that the taps plotted here show how the flow becomes unhinged. To make this a bit clearer, we've marked the beats and offbeats according to the instrumental here in white. And the beat, as suggested by Suga's flow, is now overlaid in red. While Suga often places syllables a little bit early or a little bit late, the offset here is much more substantial. His laid-back phrases go so far as to conflict with the instrumental. In his first line, Suga's repeated bullet gradually slow, increasing the gap to the size of a full syllable. In the second line, Suga returns to the song's original tempo, but maintains the syllable-sized offset from the beat. As easy mode taps usually follow the beat, anybody playing in that mode will now, at this point, feel committed to the meter set by Suga's flow, whether they can hear the instrumental or not. But at the third line, Suga snaps back to the beat, with a repeated half-phrase rhythm reinforcing this instrumental meter and abandoning the alternative timeline he's just created. This moment can feel like a confusing reset for players, as they catch up to Suga's change in temporal perspective. Most listeners to We Are Bulletproof Eternal may not notice the intricate, deliberate play and time that Suga is performing in this verse and in this version. But the Rhythm Hive choreography forces players to recognize that something complicated is happening and to work to match Suga's exact delivery.
We are bulletproof 부정적인 시선에 맞서 우리는 했고 나쁜 기억도 많은 시련도 다 호기롭게 우리 막아냈지 bulletproof 내 생각처럼.
To round out this tour of how Rhythm Hive can help non-rappers and non-Korean speaker fans appreciate BTS's flows, we also wanted to highlight how K-pop's use of diverse rap styles give listeners and players an introduction to different textures of flows. Stutter rap is a distinctive style of rap that developed with trap. According to one interview, Run BTS was J-Hope's first opportunity to try performing this style with its on-beat bursts of syllables and extremely short and tight delivery. The repetition and rhythmic texture easily translates to features felt in the finger choreography, particularly in hard mode, where the player alternates between the sharp repeated tap patterns and more melodic ad-libs. Here's the excerpt to give a taste.
무식한 믿음으로 달려다리로 That's how we do it all 그렇게 증명했어 너도 좋아 니도 100만부짜리로 재밌는 거 생각들이 없죠 용기없는 여생 전국이 어둠 속 Get ready, get ready, get ready, get ready, get ready 앞으로 Go get it, go get it, go get it, go get it, go get it 달리자 Let's feel it fast, let us die young.
And now to close. In playing a game like Rhythm Hive, players have a chance to hear the music differently, noticing and appreciating aspects of the music that are highlighted through interactive proprioception. Rhythm Hive's focus on the vocal tracks gives many fans new access to the expert rap performances of Suga, RM, and J-Hope. The choreographies draw players' attention to repetition and variation in rhythmic patterns, the effort of producing long and short utterances, detailed play with timing and meter, and the characteristic feel of different styles of rap flow. And all in a fun format, accessible regardless of rapping skills or knowledge of the language performed in. So thank you for listening, and if you haven't tried Rhythm Hive yet, well, why not see what it can do for you?